Welcome to the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcast, please follow, hit the like button, or any subscribes. It really helps us with the algorithms. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is independent of Santa Cruz Guitar Company, and all opinions are those of the speakers. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is produced by the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. We invite you to join us on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF for more fun. Now, let's get on with this installment of Santa Cruz Coffee Break.
For those of you in the virtual world, we'd like to ultimately thank Mr. Hoover for double time today, since the first time we did this, it didn't record. So can't explain that, just going to say that it didn't work. But Richard's graciously giving us some other time today when he should be resawing wood. So if your guitar's a little late, you can blame me for it. And we're going to welcome you back, Richard, and say thanks very much for being so generous with your time today. And of course, all our disclaimers are in effect. And Tad, take it away. I'm going to go take a nap.
Mr. Newman, it isn't that bad. It's just the internet tubes get clogged up from time to time, and that doesn't matter. So we should introduce this as podcast number 14, if we are all counting correctly. I'm afraid once we get past 10, I run into problems. And we are here with Mr. Hoover. He is safely ensconced in his office at the Santa Cruz Guitar Company. Mr. Newman is in Pacific Grove, and I am in Oakland. So we are keeping reasonable social distance, which is why none of us are wearing masks. We were going to make this a follow-up to the question and answer, but there was one question that got asked that I felt was probably enough information to fill an entire podcast, and that is a question about Santa Cruz guitars' necks. There is no one standard neck on a Santa Cruz guitar. When I see on the forums people say, oh, I tried a Santa Cruz and I didn't like the neck. Well, that's not a good thing, because there is no one style of neck and they're different on the various guitars. So our hope today is with Mr. Hoover, he can maybe talk to us about the neck on the Santa Cruz guitar. So Richard, welcome, and let's start with this obvious question. Is there a standard Santa Cruz neck?
Yes, there is. Yes, Tad, we do have standard necks, and they're specific to each model that we make. And they're based on tradition, vintage appeal. The guitars that were inspired by old Martins often have a V-shaped neck. The ones inspired by old Gibsons have a rounder shaped neck. And then a lot of it is just based on experience. Jazz people like rounder necks, bluegrass people like V-shaped necks. So we started out by having each model have an appropriate style neck. Knowing that there's not one right neck for everybody, we also have the option of working with the customer to get their own taste and their own personal preferences in it, so we can do a unique neck for somebody on their guitars. And you're right, if somebody plays a guitar out in the field that's used, that may or may not represent the neck they would get if they just ordered the standard model. It's really easy to give us a call or an email and ask, referencing the serial number, and we can give you that answer. So there you go. We do make standard necks per model, and it's hard to put shapes into words. So even though our specs online will have a name for that neck shape, it's better to just check with us directly. When we do a custom neck, we don't do it in words, we do it in drawings and specifications. Anybody that's ever tried to work with a fabricator or a machinist on the phone, they won't talk to you without a drawing. And that's pretty much how we do it. So either we get the guitar from the customer and use that as a reference to make the neck, or we send them to a trusted mutual contact, another luthier that can take the proper measurements for us.
Great. So, but if somebody goes into a shop and they play a VS or they play an OM, play a Firefly, and they call you up and say, "Oh, I just love this neck, but I want this body." That's enough information for you to kind of put the two together to help them out?
With a serial number, yeah. We keep really, really good records of everything we've done. So the serial number is the key to that information.
Okay.
And the
Serial
serial
number.
number for the uninitiated, on our label on the back, visible through the sound hole, will be a letter that designates the body size, DHOM, and then there'll be a series of numbers. At this point, 4 numbers. That will be the serial number, and that will give us the reference we need.
Right. And the serial number is unique to the model too, so that it's not like you're serial numbering each guitar that goes out the door, but it's this number of Dread series, or this number of OM series, or this number of F series.
Oh, but if we could start again. For some inexplicable reason, we numbered the body styles separately. So the D models are all numbered sequentially. The OM models are numbered sequentially, etc.
Anybody you'd care to blame for that, since there's nobody who's going to disagree with you?
Well, somebody that's not here, obviously.
Okay.
Whoever's out of the room takes the rap.
Takes the rap on that one. Well, I've seen you have quite a collection of build cards, and so if somebody finds a neck they really like and they can get the serial number and the model number and contact you, then it sounds like a great first step to getting a custom guitar built.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the beautiful side benefits of the COVID and the shelter in place is we caught up on a lot of that record keeping, and we're able to put a lot of those old paper records onto computer. So they're a lot more accessible than they used to be.
Oh, outstanding. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. But beyond just saying I like a neck on a particular guitar, you're able to modify that to a certain degree, right? It's, if somebody says, I love that neck, but it's too narrow or it's too wide, you can go down. I guess 1 11/16 is going to be the narrowest, and I've seen 1 7/8 on a couple of guitars. So that, I would say that's what, your normal range, perhaps?
Well, here, to put it the simplest, we do custom necks on an individual basis. So for us, custom really means what's right for you, not a generic term like a larger company. The custom series, which could be 10,000 or something. So when I talk to a player individually, we discuss their needs, and we can take dimensions, of course. Somebody knows that they want to have a 1 11/16, 1 3/4, 1 13/16, etc. at the nut. We can do that. It's all integral, and I'll also talk to them about width of the neck at the 14th fret or the 12th fret where it joins the body, the actual profile or shape of the neck, etc. Usually we're working with a neck that already exists that we can copy or modify. So yeah, it's a discussion more than a parameter that I would give on this. Our limitations are, what's physically possible, and then, reasonably good taste. When it comes to design things. And as far as the neck shape goes, I won't put any limitations on this. I don't want people to fear asking for something. So individually, I'd let people know what's possible.
Okay. And just while we're touching on it, do you have any comments on how neck width choices have changed over the years that you've been building guitars? Have you noticed trends like were wider necks more popular with bell bottoms, or when skinny jeans came in, people were going with skinnier necks, or anything along those lines?
You know, the market demand, people's taste does transmorgify over years, but it's based on influences, of course. And influences early on were, let's see, you know, my generation. Martin at that time made a 1 11/16 inch neck, and people really didn't know there was anything else. We weren't as hip to vintage guitars where the necks were wider or different shapes and so forth. So that was what was popular for a really long time, 1 11/16. The OM at 1 3/4 became a real rage starting in the late 80s on up as people got into smaller body guitars because that's what the reference was for the OM. Now people realize they can get something that's right for them rather than just what's right for most of the market at once. So yes, they do. And also market demand changes our standard specs on guitars. So where originally we might have done a pretty severe V shape, which was true to the tradition of old Martin, it wasn't popular in the modern market. So over time, we added more material to the cheeks of that V and come up with something that one might term a modified V. So I stay away from names, cute names for the neck shapes because it's confusing between brand and brand. So really we're more about measurements there. So to answer your question, yes, it does change over time.
Okay. Well, I just wonder if you've noticed any trends in the marketplace, like necks are headed
Yes.
up or necks are headed down, or.
Well, yeah, because you know, let's go back. Tony's old D28 had the neck worked, modified. A lot of folklore around that, but the neck really measures closer to 1 5/8 than to 1 11/16. You know, 1 12/16 would be 3/4, and so it was pretty skinny neck, and people wanted that not because it's an easy to play neck. They wanted it because Tony Rice had it and Clarence White had it before that. So you can see it's really a trend with it. It's not a really, it's not a neck that lends itself to facility for every hand because the strings are close together and it's hard to be articulate with them that crowded. So over time, yes, people went from 1 11/16 to 1 3/4. When we first made our dreadnought back in the mid 70s, we did a string spacing of 1 13/16, thinking that we knew better than everybody else, and there was one neck shape that was good for all players. That was silly. So now we will make a custom width, but you're right. The trend is toward wider string spacing because actually it's easier to get good articulate separation between the notes when you can put your fingers down on separate strings. The classical at 2+ inches is a good illustration of that.
Yeah. And in the part we lost, I heard for the first time that you actually have built a few classical guitars, although it sounds like you're not going to build any more just because there isn't time. But so you have built things all the way up to 2-inch or more in your career.
Yeah, we've actually done that on steel strings too. But yeah, to clarify that, we have done bona fide classical guitars. It's you know, they're dear to my heart. You know, I spent tons of time networking with Spanish builders and some American classical builders and so on. So I really respect the instrument, but it's not in our catalog because it requires so much personal time of mine to do it, and I just don't have the bandwidth. As we said earlier, I have more projects that I can do in my lifetime, and I have to be pretty careful than how I choose and what I do. So I can't make a commitment for a classical at this point.
Right. Well, and you also, as we said earlier, you have some near and dear neighbors who specialize in that and don't build steel string instruments. So it's you want to go with the strengths.
Well, that's what I would do. I mean, really, out of respect for our customers, I want them to get the best value for their money, and I would refer them to somebody that does this really well and is a matter of course and is efficient and can charge them correctly. There's no reason for Richard or Santa Cruz Guitar Company to make them a prototype and to have to pay those costs when it's available elsewhere.
Right, right. And the other thing we were talking about, most of the guitars that come out of the shop use a mahogany neck, but you
right.
don't exclusively use mahogany. I have a couple of Maple Fs that have beautiful maple necks. I think I've seen one OM with a maple neck. I've not seen anything other than that. But tell us what kind of woods you will work with, and why so many of the guitars come primarily with mahogany.
Okay, well, mahogany for all woodworkers is God made mahogany for woodworkers, right? It's light but strong. It's really stable. It's really workable. It's really, cutting tool friendly, sanding friendly, and you can manipulate the look of it to look like most other woods, through staining or shading or whatever. So it's just a dream come true. It also varies considerably in density. And one of the criteria that we have with our necks is the appropriate density for the model of guitar and the voice that we're after. So to make this really simple, the heavier the neck, the more vibration it blocks from the body entering into the neck. So it allows for more projection, more clarity, more separation between notes when you have a heavy neck. When you have a light neck, vibration becomes the neck becomes part of the vibrational surface, the resonating surface. You get a more open, airy, and blended sound. So you can see that slotted peg head, light gears, a low density mahogany, it's going to give you a nice folky sound, and a maple neck that's heavy or a heavy density mahogany with a larger peg head and big gears is going to give that clarity projection that you're looking for in, let's say, a jazz instrument or a big rhythm instrument. So in that sense, we can do anything we want with mahogany because I sort it by density. And I have some real pet pieces that are super, super heavy from the olden days to use. The maple neck comes in where it is more of a tradition and an optic. In our jazz guitar, for instance, that's flame maple, backsides carved back. The maple neck looks right on that. It also, the density of maple fits with what we want as far as projection, separation of notes, etc. So back to your original query there, we can do anything we want with mahogany, but maple looks really sexy and pretty and great with shading or sunburst, and we will use that. In the past, for people with patron status, we have made koa necks or walnut necks or even Brazilian rosewood necks. But again, I'd like to talk to people individually in their choices because although they may get a unique look in a different wood, they might not get the sound that they want.
Right, right. I can't imagine. I've played a couple of, I think, electrics with rosewood necks, and they are just so insanely heavy. And the guitar feels like it's tremendously out of balance. I just can't imagine a beautiful lightweight acoustic with a 25-pound neck on it.
Well, I want to say this, give you this anecdote. I know you heard it earlier, but Art Overholser, who was my grandfather in my Lutheran tradition, taught guitar making at Chico State, and he had his students make Brazilian rosewood necks. Back when it was about, from Macbeth's Hardwood in Berkeley, you could buy Brazilian rosewood for like $1.75 a pound or something. And they made their necks out of that. And his vision or his intent was to make a classical guitar that was much louder and more impressive. And a heavy neck doesn't increase the volume of the guitar. It directs the volume more to the player. So the perception is from the audience as of a louder guitar. But you're right, it's heavy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. So
And
in
Brazilian
some,
rosewood's not $1.75 a pound anymore.
yeah, we've all noticed that. That's, but if somebody's coming to you to get a guitar spec today, you're going to be pushing the mahogany primarily, maybe the maple if it's aesthetically a good choice with the rest of the guitar.
Well, I'm going to put it like this. Where I feel that my experience, expertise, and history of success and failure can serve somebody really well, we don't have to discuss those issues. So when
Okay.
somebody's getting a custom guitar, I'm gonna pay real close attention to what kind of sound that they're after, as far as a tone, projection, presence of the instrument, and then we're going to build the guitar accordingly. And the neck material usually doesn't come up as a question in that, and it doesn't need to, because I can make the right choices. And usually it's just in me choosing the proper density, the appropriate density for what they're after as far as sound is.
Excellent. That's one choice off the table amongst the many other choices that must be made.
That's
Um,
right. And finally, there, if somebody does ask for something like, "Oh, I'd like a maple neck because it looks really pretty," we will visit whether that's appropriate for the sound they want or not.
okay, that sounds good. Um, so that's basically well, yeah. So that's the back of the neck. Then the front of the neck is obviously the fretboard. And again, most commonly that's done in ebony, although I have seen some done in Brazilian rosewood. Is there any other materials that you've chosen? And, you know, what are your thoughts about those materials in general?
I get it. Yeah. Okay. I think I could say this best as ebony is ideal because the weight of it's consistent, so there's a control there, and it's really durable. Everything else is a bit of a compromise as far as durability, and you have to weigh the cosmetic appeal against that. So Brazilian rosewood fingerboard is really pretty. And you know, you see some modern guitars from luthiers with Brazilian boards that are really striking and really nice. But you look at an old D18 and you really don't notice that it's Brazilian because finger oils over time have really obscured the figure in the wood. You know, it darkens up. But also what you'll notice in the Brazilian rosewood board is on older guitars, the most popular playing positions are pitted, you know, where fingers and fingernails have dug into it. And that's a problem. It can wreck your intonation. It can affect your resale value. And usually when one of those guitars is refretted, the luthier will have a technique that they do to fill those in, you know, whether it's epoxy or whatever that's colored to match the board and repair that damage. And that's really hard to do in ebony. So we've done Coca-Cola boards, which are really pretty, also really durable. But again, ebony is the most consistent in weight and the most durable, and that's why we use it as a standard.
Right. And ebony also does an excellent job of showing off any kind of decoration that people might want to have on their fretboard. And you have done everything from literally blank fretboards with absolutely no markers, which I've gotten lost on once or twice, to, you know, traditional diamonds, traditional, you know, 42 style elements. And then you've done some work with people like Larry Robinson that, you know, I don't know how people play those guitars because you're spending so much time just staring at the beautiful decoration. Are those, what kind of options do you offer in those ways these days? I mean, are you still doing all these various highly decorative elements?
Oh yeah, you know, with our history, which is considerable. You know, we just we're in our 45th year of this. There's a lot of examples out there that inspire people to ask for their own variations and their own iconic stuff. So, my personal taste is not important in the choice that other people make. My personal taste is a blank fingerboard. I just love that. As standard, we'll put little tiny 2mm mother of pearl dots in the most popular positions on the board. But when somebody wants to add something iconic that makes their guitar their own and personalized, or to celebrate, a milestone in their life, we love to do that. It's really gratifying. It's great service for people, and the stuff we don't do here in house, we work with specialists. You mentioned Larry Robinson, Jimmy Wingert. People that have their styles and the things that they do. So based on what the subject is or the content, we'll choose the artist to do that part of it. And first and foremost, it's trying to do something that is consistent with the quality of the instrument, that it's a professional presentation. It looks elegant, it looks right, and it's within proportion to the instrument. And when people are asking about inlay, again, it's the context, and I do it on an individual basis. I want to make sure that people get those qualities of look I was talking about. So I will advise them on proportion and materials and so forth. So here's a couple of caveats, and you started it. You said ebony is a great backdrop for inlay because of the graphic contrast. And that's true. That's true in mother of pearl or lighter abalone and things like that. And but if you're using a colorful abalone against a black background, that variety in dark blues and even blacks in the abalone can really obliterate your intended shape and make it just look like an amoeba. So it's better to do more intricate shapes in a lighter contrasting material with that. Wood inlays are not a good idea because they will also absorb finger oils and darken and over time lose their effect on that. And anything from traditional shell, abalone, mother of pearl, a lot of varieties of other seashells that go from violet to gold. But we're not above using the exotic rare corian to get the colors that we want, and that could be granite or whatever. Corian, by the way, is what's on your kitchen countertop.
Right. Yes.
Right, which we can get in all kind of variations and colors. So there's a lot that endless variety on that. And again, what we're after is getting somebody really good value, what they want and feel and look, but also that it's really professional and it's not going to be displeasing to another owner in the future.
Right. I've seen
Go ahead.
I've seen some beautiful guitars with fretboards that are bound in maple, and they look so beautiful while they're brand new, but it generally takes just a year or two, and that maple starts to get, well, if somebody's playing the guitar, it starts to get really dirty and nasty kind of looking. Whereas ivory or maybe even corian, that'll hold up to decades of playing without getting that kind of look.
Right, and what you're talking about, of course, is the sides of the binding are lacquered, so that's safe. But the surface that's against the fretboard is not finished, and that again, that gets finger oils and things like that, and can look really funky in a short period of time.
Okay, so that's a great discussion of you can basically it sounds like do anything on the fretboard within tasteful reason. That a customer would want. The next step obviously is the frets. And there's a lot of people who have feelings about sizes of frets. Santa Cruz seems to use a pretty consistent fret on most of their instruments. Is that something that you've developed, or just, I can't imagine you just said, oh yeah, give me that and that's fine.
Yeah, we have a long history of success and failure, and after all this time, we avoid the failures and stick to the successes. So what we end up with is we have, I say proprietary alloy, not because I want to keep it a secret, just to express that it is something we developed so that we get a fret that's hard enough to be durable and not necessitate refretting, in too short a period of time, but also not so hard that it wears out strings quickly. The temper of the material is really important for, again, for being able to put them in correctly, but also, again, have the durability. The actual manufacture of the fret is critical for its performance. And if you looked at fret wire under a microscope, as you look at the side of the tang, and those little beads are diamonds there that actually are the teeth that hold the fret in. On some fret wire, those can look like little drops of solder. I mean, just, ill-defined shapes. And you kind of bludgeon the fret in, and there's nothing to keep it from coming out. But on really well-made fret wire, those are like little clean diamonds with knife edges. And those press, the technique is to press those in and have it slide slightly sideways so that the fret's locked in. So they really need to be a cutting action to do that. And so who makes the fret wire and the material it's made out of, again, is really, really critical. And we don't scrimp on savings on fret wire for that reason. The size of it is really pleasing most of the people most of the time. And I'm going to say that it comes up really infrequently that somebody wants a variation on that. Usually somebody that's used to playing jumbo frets. And that's understandable. Doc Watson was one of those guys. When I first started dealing with him in late 80s, he said, a lot of people don't know that I put more hours on a Les Paul than I have on a Dreadnought. And the jumbo frets were just part of his tradition. And sure, we'll honor that. We'll put in jumbo frets for people. But we're not going to try to convince anybody to adapt to jumbo frets that doesn't need them. So that's why we have a standard.
Okay.
Do you want
Makes
to talk?
sense.
Do you want to talk stainless steel? Just a quick second, because there was a forum question about stainless steel.
Yeah, we will do stainless steel. We have one artist model that we do stainless steel, Scott Law, and he had a really good rap about stainless steel and really good witness for the use of them. So stainless steel, of course, is durable as heck. It lasts a really long time, and people feel the difference in them. Not everybody, and it's not for everybody. And it's more work to put them in. It's really hard on tools. And so it's actually gotten a bit of a negative connotation with luthiers because they hate, wearing out their favorite tools by using stainless steel frets. But it's an option. It's one we're happy to do, and we charge accordingly for it. Is it better? I'm going to say in some senses it actually is better in durability, but as far as feel or tone or things like that, that's of course a personal choice. So we don't do it. We don't do it on all guitars. Then there's the in between. There's alloys, variations of that. Evo through Jescar is one of them that we've used. It's kind of the gold-looking fret wire. And actually, one of the, when you showed me those questions, one of them was from a fellow that said he had asked years ago about Evo and said that we didn't do it. And I can't, I don't know the context or whatever. I don't doubt that that's the answer he got, but I don't know why. We will do that. We will use those. So I wait for people to ask for those again. Otherwise, I'm hoping they just rely on our good judgment.
Well, and Santa Cruz is not a company that's known for jumping on the latest fad bandwagon, and it could be that he asked about Evo Fretwire, the week after it came out, and nobody knew anything about it. So who knows?
Yeah,
But it's good to hear that we'll do it now.
That's a real blessing, Ted, that you brought up. It would be really challenging to try to establish yourself as a luthier in the current season here. When we started out, nobody made guitars except factories, and just the fact we made guitar was pretty impressive. And with 45 years behind us, we don't have to be coming up with something new all the time to attract attention. We do just fine with our regular palette. So as a new luthier, a sound port, a bevel, stainless steel wire. There's a lot of things you'd like to do just to get attention to start with. But luckily we're not in that place. We don't need to come up with new things all the time. And if we do, it's as an option, doesn't change our guitars.
Right. Yes. No, I very much appreciate that, because I think there is a lot of tradition that is based on experiential evidence that was gained over potentially hundreds of years, that because we don't understand it right away now, we dismiss it. And I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah, humans, we don't like change unless it's our own idea. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, okay, so that's the frets. And we were talking also, I guess, about the tuning machines. Those can add mass to the guitar.
Wow.
You have the Santa Cruz brand or labeled tuning machines, but you also do a variety of other ones. Are those just an option? I mean, do you really care, or what are your feelings on that?
Well, again, the every component of the neck has to be considered part of the overall mass, and we'll combine these either to add weight or combine them to lose weight. So the Tony Rice model has nice old vintage gears, and we had a lot to do with that design, to start with, because there was nothing in the market available, open back gears that weren't just toys, cheap stuff when we first began. So we had to design a gear that was quality but light. On our like a jazz style instrument like the FTC or the fingerstyle guitar, we use full closed back machines that do add weight to the guitar for a purpose, to get that sound. So the gears that we use on the guitars are specific to those models and to complement them. So when somebody, as a custom feature, asks for a particular gear, again, I'm going to make sure they know what effect it has on sound and it's compatible with their vision. So we don't use, I'm going to say we don't use any tuning machines on our guitars that we haven't monkeyed with, right? That we haven't had a say in design improvements and things like that. So overall, usually they're made to our specifications. That's not necessary. If somebody wants to use a really high quality machine that is made by a company that's not our design, that's perfectly fine. We can do that, given the weight considerations.
Right. I got to imagine over 45 years, you've seen a lot of changes in tuning gears and tuning machines, and what's available in the market.
Right. When Martin, when I came of age, Martin used Grover Rotomatics. And Grover was a American company, and it was the gold standard. And everybody put those on their Harmony, right? So it could be more like a Martin. And the idea of an open back gear then would have been, are you kidding? Why would you put such cheap stuff on a nice guitar? So open back gears were really a amazing paradigm shift that finally Stu Mack came along and did a real credible open back gear. And before that, your only choice really was antique gears to get that effect.
Right, right. Very interesting. So let's see, what have we not covered on next now, Mr. Newman? Can you think? I'm trying to think of what else we.
I think we've pretty much run the gamut on it. It's actually pretty interesting to do it a second time in a couple hours because we really refined it down a little bit. I think it's a much better 45 minutes than we had initially. I'm really I've come off the roof and I've decided that maybe the technology gave us a break here or something. I don't know, but
it's just the Mountain Dew wearing off.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Having said that, let me completely reverse that and dig in just a little bit deeper here. Is truss rod. We talked about density of the mahogany. We talked about the weight of the gears, the fretboard, and the truss rod. It's absolutely necessary to have a truss rod that will make the neck go both directions, against the pull of the string and towards the pull of the string. There's really no valid argument to not have a truss rod in a guitar. So given that, we want that double action, but we don't want to add weight unnecessarily. So our truss rod is our own design, and it's meant to be double acting, but a single rod and lightweight. And it's elegant, if I may say so. It does the job, and it doesn't force us to add weight to the neck.
Great.
I have to admit that we did a discussion with Roger Simonoff with the NCAL, Northern California Association of Luthiers Group, and I had no idea how much thought and effort and design and experimentation and failure there had been over the years working on truss rods. I mean, to me, it was like, oh, it's a threaded rod with a nut welded on one end and a nut on the other end, and that's all there is to it. But oh no. So I got to imagine that you guys have probably done a fair bit of work to come up with the truss rod that you're willing to use.
Well, this is I'm so grateful for the wild ideas of our predecessors, so that we don't have to do those things, right? By the way, did you see, did Roger give you the example he did? One of the patents he had was for a truss rod that would bend the neck any direction. I mean, 360 degrees. And it was like 3 articulated snake skeletons in the neck that nested, each component nested into the next. And by adjusting them separately, you could make the neck go anywhere.
Yeah, no, that was really amazing. And what was even more amazing to me is how it was designed to slide out of the neck so that you could make adjustments to it, then slide it back into the guitar, and then start tightening it up in order to get those kinds of adjustments and modifications.
While we're doing whatever it is to relax our brains, Roger's developing a new patent. So.
Yeah. Or
he's
two.
Yeah, he's an inspiration.
Yeah. Well, the truss rods is fascinating. Tuning machines.
Frets, inlays, binding were there.
Yeah.
Well, you did. If Tad, you did talk about joining the neck at the 12th, 13th, or 14th fret, and I can do that pretty quick. That we developed the 13th fret had a historical precedent in the old Gibson Nick Lucas. What the reason for doing that is, I don't know. The reason for us doing it is to put the bridge in the proper position, or the optimal position to drive the top, with a long string length, a long scale for more tension. And that at the 12th fret or the 14th fret, the bridge was in the wrong place. The 13th, it was perfect. So when we change the fret to the body relationship, we also have to think about where the bridge is going to fall and the bracing configuration. And some body styles don't lend themselves to messing with that. You're stuck with a 12th fret or a 14th fret. So there's rhyme or reason behind that as well.
Sure. And I want to mention, Richard, I don't think we mentioned this before. We've done 2 podcasts with Santa Cruz artists so far, Adam Traum and Lisa Liu.
Good company.
Yeah, both outstanding in their own unique way. But the one thing I found really interesting to me, and it made it very clear, I spend way too much time on guitar forums and talking with very eccentric guitar people. Both of them were like, yeah, this is my Santa Cruz OM. I think it's like rosewood and spruce or something. I don't know. It sounds so great. And, you try and say, well, do you know what they use for the bracing and it's like, I think it's wood, but it really sounds great. And I think sometimes, I know I'm guilty of it, is we get a little too off into the weeds about the specifics of material or inlay or all these little things. And then you run across these really great musicians that are just like, I don't know, it sounds so great.
Yeah, you said it. That's more of a matter of priorities than a lack of sophistication. Lisa and Adam are both smarter than a whip, and they're both really articulate about what they do. Adam's lyrics and his songs really convey that, and Lisa is masterful in her playing. And you know what? I haven't heard Lisa's podcast yet. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, and to me, that really, it says so much that essentially they're validating that what you have chosen to build, what you think is this really great guitar, it works. It's perfect. They pick it up and it's like, I can't imagine what I would change about it. And I think that's one of the things that when coming to your shop to get a guitar built, you have to keep in mind is, maybe you know what you want for a nut width, or, maybe you want 6 strings on it or whatever else. That the reason we're going to come to you to get that guitar built is you can take care of so much of this stuff without us having to go on forums and ask for opinions. Well, do you think I should use hide glue or do you think I should use Adirondack for my bracing, or do you think I should use, don't even think about it. Just call Richard.
Yeah. Well, Ted, there's really good reason for that phenomena. I'm going to venture this, is that people are so used to playing, big brand factory made guitars that are not consistent at all in their quality of sound, and they feel that if they could describe what a good sounding guitar is to the maker could by choice make a good sounding one. And in the realm of the factory, for efficiency's sake, these components are put together of sizes to get your costs down. We're putting together frequencies or notes when we put together our components, and the guitar is in tune with itself in harmony, and that's what generates the qualities of sound that people call a good guitar: sustain, overtones, full, rich sound. So people thinking the more information they can give you, the more likely you are to get a good one. And what I'm saying here without hubris is following the the directions from the masters, we just can make a really good sounding guitar, and people can pick it up and go, "Oh, that's what I want. How did you know?"
Yeah, exactly.
That's a little oblique, but thanks for letting me say that.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh, yeah.
the difference between buying something out of a box or buying a musical instrument.
Cool.
Yeah, really, there's that's what attracted me to Santa Cruz in the first place. Is I was looking for a triple O or an OM, and I at the time was traveling around the country everywhere, and I was playing guitars everywhere I was going. And out of 30 different shops, I maybe played one that I went, well, maybe I should have bought that. And then I came back here and I went to the local Sylvan in Santa Cruz, and I played an OMPW and paid for it because it was so wonderful and so musical. And I had to take out, Richard, I had to take out the little dots, and I put in style 42. I put in style 42 because I couldn't see the little dots, and it really made me crazy. But if anybody sees my style 42 OMPW out there, give it back. Give it
Well,
back.
I designed those 2mm mother of pearl dots as a standard when I was like 25. So
Yeah, we couldn't see them. Richard, you've been incredibly gracious with your time. I think we've covered pretty much everything twice.
It's my pleasure. You guys are professionals. You know how to do this, and you know how to make people sound good. And I'm very grateful for that. I need all the help I can get.
So we'll see you in a couple weeks, Tad.
Yeah.
Yes, we will see Richard in a couple of weeks, which gives everybody who logs on to the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum, which you can get to just by typing in scgcpf.com. That'll take you right there very easily. And you can add questions or comments there, which we will read and hopefully not ignore and bring back to the maestro at a future podcast. Get some more questions answered, provided the question doesn't take as much time as this one did, but I think it was a lot of fun. I definitely learned a lot more. We have more artists coming up, so I'm going to encourage everybody to keep an eye on the podcast as we post them, because we've got a couple of really exciting artists coming up. I'm really looking forward to talking to them. But I am always happy to come back to the maestro and talk with him. So again, thank you very much, Richard, for your time. And we are very anxious to someday actually be able to see you in person and sit down and do this in a single room. We will keep fingers crossed and keep hoping good thoughts for everybody. Our best to everybody at the shop. We hope you're all doing well and recovering from all this. And our thanks to Mr. Newman for handling all the technical details so well. And thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah. Have a beautiful sunny Santa Cruz afternoon, Richard. Okay.
I promise. You guys do the same. I look forward to next time. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at scgcpf or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell, or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar.